I'm looking at you.
Have you got a butt plug in now just to like stop it?
Yeah, I'm trying my best.
Good on you. I want to start off kind of from the beginning.
Yeah.
I want to know what kind of led you to esports.
Holy
I want to
shit.
know what got you into tournament organizing
Yeah.
and kind of what pulled you towards Smash the most out of everything.
Yeah, definitely. Dude, there's such a, like, an insane like build up to it now looking back. So I think it like really started, like my first competitive game that I got into was Mario Strikers Charge on the Wii.
How long ago was that? How old were you?
It came out like the year after it came out, so in like
Yeah.
2008.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, and I was
Oh my God.
I'm like doing the math in my head. How old was I
Yeah.
in 2008? Like 14 years.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
11, like
I was
10,
gonna say,
11.
Are you 97?
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
okay, me too.
So I got into competitive Mario Strikers because there was a leaderboard in the game. So you could like
Yeah,
see
okay.
people's like names, and like there was like a striker of the day and stuff like that. And that was really cool because it gave you this like really concrete thing to compete for. And you could see other people's names on the leaderboard,
Yeah.
like in their points and stuff.
Yeah.
And there were these clan tags there. And I didn't know what they were. I just thought it was cool that people had like these letters or symbols in front of their names. I didn't even know what a clan was.
Yeah.
And then a lot of those people just had websites as their names, but a lot of them used the same website in their tag. Like, and this really common one was called mscbay.com. And mscbay.com just led you to this website and forum that was a Zat chat room where competitive Mario Strikers players like gathered and talked and like
Yeah.
scheduled matches and stuff. So that was like my first foray into like competitive gaming, was like
Yeah.
finding this competitive Mario Strikers group.
Just randomly just stumbled
Yeah.
upon it. Yeah.
And Charged is like this beautiful masterpiece of a game. It's like, it's very similar to Melee, where like
Yeah, okay.
64 for Smash is like this default, very good, very fun, pretty like solid competitive title. And then Melee is just this beautiful game that builds on top of it in all these incredible ways.
Yeah.
And Charged is the same way as it is to like the Strikers GameCube one. Like Mario Strikers on the GameCube is a really great game, and then Charged just like took everything about the GameCube game and made it so much better.
Yeah.
So there's this like really cool competitive scene around it. But after a few years, it started to flounder a bit, and I got really into competitive Mario Kart Wii. Yeah, so like
That's brilliant. Okay,
yeah, two
yeah.
very niche
Yeah,
titles off the
very.
bat.
Yeah.
But I got into Mario Kart Wii for like years. Like that was my main thing that I was really into. And within the space of that scene, there were people who kind of like stepped up and like started to organize things and help put together like little leagues and shit like that for, you know, fucking Mario Kart.
Yeah, yeah. Just
And-
bringing out the passion for the game, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Like that in a game like that, there's no hope of that becoming like a full-time job
Yeah,
or something,
yeah,
right? It's like people do it literally just for the sake of organizing or like growing the scene. And I like, you know, I would start teams, I would help like manage things within that community, and like that kind of gets your like organizer juices flowing a
Yeah.
bit. And I think just like as a younger person in general, like I had a lot of motivation to be involved in like fucking school clubs
Yeah.
and like class officer or like president, vice president, that type of stuff. Like I was always interested in doing things like that.
Yeah.
So I think or being the person in your friend group who was like willing to organize and get things together,
me.
right?
That's
yeah.
me. Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
weird because I feel like a lot of people in esports often have these like really similar character traits of
Yeah.
like what they were like in their just like normal social lives.
Yeah. Growing up, yeah.
Exactly. And I was kind of that person. And when I was 16, I think there was this day where I was kind of fading out of like playing Mario Kart. Like it was getting a little boring. And a lot of people were getting into like League of Legends at the time, and I was playing League with my high school friends a lot.
Yeah.
And tried doing some stuff with that game. But I think in a game that's like so ruled by the developer, it's like a
Yeah.
little harder to do something grassroots and like find it to be like substantial and meaningful.
A lot of the time, you're not like Riot don't even let you to run something grassroots.
Exactly. Yeah. There's like a hard ceiling on what you can do within a title like that when the developer has such a grip on it.
Yes.
Which sucks, and I wish they would open the gates a little more.
I agree.
But you know, whatever. People got to make money, I guess.
That's how it be.
Yeah. And one day, I remember it very specifically because it was like November of 2013. I was just on YouTube, and in my YouTube recommended page, there was this thing, and it was just called The Smash Brothers. And
is this the documentary?
Yeah. And I'm like, oh, I wonder if that has to do with the video game.
The game.
Because the thumbnail at the time is just like a fucking house.
Oh,
like it's just somebody's
yeah.
house from the outside. And I'm like, does this have to do with the video game? And I clicked into it, and I ended up watching the whole documentary series in one night.
Isn't it very long and kind of shit?
Yeah, it's 4 hours long. It's 4 hours long.
I thought it was 2. Okay.
And I think like the overall narrative though, and like the structure of that documentary is still like really, really good.
Yeah.
Like there's this, some things haven't aged very well, admittedly, but I think the core idea of that documentary, which is basically this gigantic call to action of like, here's this beautiful game with a bunch of cool people that you can go meet up with in person and play a game with. It's like, that was really enticing to me at the time because I was really bored of competitive Mario Kart. And I was like, this game is a game where you go play in person, hang out with people, and I was like, I want to play video games with people, because I was just like always a really social guy. Like I wanted to go out, I want to hang out with people, but I loved video games. It's like, okay, well, this is this really cool fusion of those two things.
Bringing it together, finally.
Exactly. Which like when it comes to like Mario Kart or Call of Duty or whatever I was into at the time, it's like you're just playing in your room. Which I didn't really want to do anymore at the time. And I think, I'm trying to think like where like it went from there. I found like the forum, so Smashboards was still like a place that you could go at the time, even though it was fading out. And I found like the Washington State group, because that's where I lived at the time. I lived in this little town in like northern Washington on the border with Canada. And I found the thread on the forum for Washington Smash. And then I found like the Facebook group. And
people.
Exactly. That introduced me to all these people that played locally. And I actually ended up hosting a tournament at my local library in December of 2013. So my first tournament that I ever went to was a tournament that I hosted.
Wow.
And I was 16. I was in high school still. And but I wanted to play. And I was like, the easiest way to play would be to run a tournament. Like, obviously. And that's basically where it went from there. And I ended up hosting like more tournaments in like 2014, started traveling. Like I was in really close distance of Vancouver in Canada. So I would drive to Vancouver and like other places in BC to go to other tournaments. I would meet up in this city called Bellingham, which was a little south of me, which was like a big college city in Washington. And that's where I met a lot of like the Bellingham, Washington scene. And that's just kind of like what pulled me into Smash, because it was this thing where like I could travel and drive all over, meet up with people, play and practice this game that seemed really cool. And BC and like Bellingham Smash were like my core group of people for probably like the better part of 2 years before I ended up going to college in Seattle. And that's like when I moved down south. And so that's like what pulled me into like Smash and esports initially, was just this like, I want to play Melee. Melee seems sick. Easiest way to play Melee. I'll run the tournaments. I'll make the events.
Just come play with me, please.
Yeah, come play with me. And that was honestly what got me into it. And it's so funny looking back, because I had this idea of working in esports at the time. Because Washington has this weird program where you can get into college classes in high school.
Yeah, we have that here too, I think.
Yeah, and it's really nice. Like if you take full advantage of it, it's a really, really good way to like save money on college and start early and things like that. And I wanted to, at the time, I would go into medical school. And I was going into my first like quarter of college at 16, fucking like, I'm gonna do medical school. And I finished one quarter and I was like, Dad, actually, because before Smash, before I watched the documentary in that summer, I ended up going to Los Angeles for like a school thing. And while I was there, we were in Anaheim, and that weekend was MLG Anaheim 2013.
Holy shit.
And I was
okay.
just into League and Call of Duty
Yeah.
and Mario Kart at the time.
Yeah.
MLG not showcasing Mario Kart.
Yeah. Fuck no.
Yeah. And but I wanted to watch League, and I remember standing in the crowd at the League of Legends, like the showcase that weekend. It was back when like Riot would do LCS at different locations and stuff, and people were losing their minds at League and COD as well, because it was back in like the big like Optic, EG, FaZe rivalry sort of era in Black Ops 2.
Yeah.
And I was so blown away that people could be like this loud and passionate like they are for sports, for video games.
Yeah, right.
And at the time, I was like, I want to be a part of this somehow.
Yeah.
And I finished my first quarter of school after watching the Smash documentary, and I went to my dad, and I was like, okay, I don't want to do medicine. I actually want to do esports.
Yeah.
And I laid out this little like PowerPoint presentation of like, here's why it's a big deal. They fill stadiums with this stuff.
Yeah.
There's a big business behind this.
Yeah.
I can make this a career. And that was like how I kind of convinced my parents of how I was going to pursue like gaming. And Smash just happened to like coexist with that at the same time. Like I got into Smash because I really liked the game and community.
Yeah.
And I never really attached the idea of doing the Smash stuff to pursuing esports.
Right, okay.
And years later, they ended up like coinciding.
Yeah.
Like it kind of clicked that like, oh, maybe Smash is sort of
this
my
can happen
path into
together.
this.
Yeah.
Which is really nice because like I never really. A question I get a lot now from people who want to like get into it is like, how do I start? How do I get into this?
I get that all the time too.
Yeah.
You just have to meet people, go to events, kind of work your way up, you know, get to know people. But that's, it's such, like you start young, right? Like I was going to events when I was like mid 15, like 16, and it literally is just meeting people again and again, being like, oh, I can fill that gap. Oh, you need someone to do this for free? Yeah, I'll do that. And then it becomes career.
Yeah, it's like a very like natural process.
Yeah.
And I think especially looking back, like my biggest piece of advice for people is so much of what I did wasn't in this effort of getting a job in esports.
Making it in esports.
Yeah, I was doing it, like I was doing Smash stuff because I loved it.
Yeah.
It's like because
I
I fucking love Melee.
Yeah.
And like that's still why I do a lot of stuff. It's like I just really like Melee.
Yeah.
And like it happened to turn into something that gave me opportunities in esports by like traveling and doing so much stuff within Smash. So that was like when I think about those questions that I get, I'm like, fuck, it's like, not that it's bad to ask, but it's like if you love something enough, I feel like you don't even think about it as a path into like what you're
get paid by.
Exactly. So I feel like that's a really, really, really long-winded way of like describing where I started and like why I got into Melee.
Yeah, you were
and
just
stuff
passionate,
like that.
right? And you found your way in, and it just hit you in that spot that makes you go like, oh, this is what I want to do.
Yeah.
This is great. I love this.
Exactly.
Do you have a favorite tournament or event that you've ever either attended or TO'd for?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah?
I think, so attended is this really easy answer. I tell everybody about this.
Yeah.
It's definitely Air 5 in the
Yeah?
UK. So I think a lot of like maybe like Melee heads or people that follow the scene like really closely will kind of know of like, we'll hear the whispers of what Air was about.
Yeah.
But Air as a series, like I went to Air 3, Air 4, and Air 5. And Air 5 was the best one.
Yeah.
But they were all amazing. And Air's this series, it used to be the national UK Melee tournament. Happened in a few different cities. It happened in like Nottingham one year, happened in Leicester one year, or maybe Nottingham like a couple years or something like that. And I went to those last three. The first one I went to was in 2016, and I was just at the time I was just looking for excuses to like go to cool places, and like the Melee or Smash community in general is like a really, really cool way to travel, because it's like every country in the world has kind of their own grassroots scene, their own group of people, their own tournaments, and you can go like experience a place and a culture in like a really interesting and authentic way, in a way that you just can't when you're traveling alone, because you wouldn't know anybody, right?
You find like a community to bond over things with like immediately.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, like the fucking boys over there, you know, like they're such good friends after all these years, and it's
Yeah.
all because like I decided to go to Australia in like 2016 for a fucking tournament. Like, it's things like that. And the UK Melee scene is really, really fun to be around. Like they're just like very passionate, very excited about the game, bring a lot of like aspects of like UK football culture over to the game in a very entertaining manner. But Air was this special tournament not only because of the UK scene, but also because so many other countries from Europe came out to it.
Oh, of course.
And so many like corners of like European culture would sort of like appear and manifest at this one event. In a way that you just couldn't really capture at an American event. Which is really nice. And something so wild is like you show up. And I think in Smash, there's this really big like celebrity culture in the game in America where top players are sort of highly regarded, but seen as like above the rest of the scene.
Unattainable.
And there's a lot of like lines for signatures and photos and things like that. And the first thing I noticed at Air was that everybody was very obviously on equal footing, regardless of their status in the game. Like I remember going to the bar and seeing a bunch of like the UK guys and Netherlands guys. And like Armada and Android, who at the time were very famous players in the United States, like just all sitting equally at a table together. And like no one cared that it's Armada the top player, but people cared that it was Armada their friend.
Oh, that reminds me of the Aussie scene.
And that whole culture is very inviting and inclusive. Like they were all, I was like a nobody at the time, and everybody was so excited that I was just there from America to be at their tournament and to hang out with them. And everybody was like very inclusive, easy to get along with. And then you walk through the venue, which is sort of, it's not even a venue, it's like they rented out a school campus every year, so it'd be like Smash campus for the weekend. And at the time, like a big thing, like the average American major would probably have like maybe 30 to 60 setups for the game. Even at tournaments with like a couple thousand people. Which is crazy actually. But Air had like 150 setups for like 500 to 700 attendees. So it was like infinite games, and then everybody's like drinking and having a good time. You go to any corner of the venue and the Scottish guys would start up their Scotland chant, and the Irish guys would start up the Ireland chant. And I remember people were terrified. The Austrian guys would roll out and they would chant like Austria in German in like this really deep voice and like scare the shit out of everybody around them.
Gamers just, fuck.
It's like all these boys in the back going, Österreich, Österreich. And it was fucking insane. And Air was always like that. And it only got bigger like over the years. And it was every country in Europe's like opportunity to kind of like showcase their personal like melee culture. And one thing I remember at Air 3 is at every Air there's this international crew battle. And crews is like kind of integral to the history of Melee and Smash in general. But I think over the years, crews has kind of like lost its substance, especially in NA, because like regional pride isn't as big as it used to be and things like that. But I think when it's national pride, it's a lot different. And it's like when you can get behind your country's flag, like people are passionate about it no matter what. And I remember at Air 3 during international cruise, France rolled out with like 40 or 50 people, and they all showed up in striped shirts, fake mustaches, berets, and baguettes.
Just like all organized.
And it's like 40 of them behind the stage, like all in this ridiculous getup.
I love that.
And Air was always like that. And the final year, Air 5 was the biggest, the most people showed up. The whole like core tournament and the finals was in a gigantic circus tent. And the chants and the songs, like all of that aspect of like spectator melee just does not exist in North America. And I think like, when I think back on it, because I remember feeling that way at Air 3 and Air 4, and I was one of the few Americans that went those 2 years. But Air 5, a lot of Americans went. And I remember finally having my opinions like unprompted echoed by other people. And it's a very like understood thing by attending, and you kind of like see and understand this energy at the event that just does not exist anywhere in North American, or I mean, if I'm being honest, Australian Melee.
Yeah.
It's like this very, very special environment that I wonder will ever be recreated at any esports event, because I've been to a lot of esports events in general, and like I've never experienced anything like that.
Yeah.
And I think Air was truly a unique experience in the space of Smash and esports in general. And it's hard to like fully describe with words what it was like. And I feel like I'm failing in a way, because it truly was.
No, you are, the energy I'm getting from you while you talk about this, so genuine.
Yeah, I've been to so many events, and so many events that are so good in Smash and in esports in general, and I had a wonderful time. And Air is truly like 2 cuts above the rest in terms of like what it offers to you as an in-person experience. So that's definitely my favorite like attendee experience, bar none. My favorite thing I ever ran is, like, when I look back on it, is probably Don't Park on the Grass, the first one.
Yeah.
So the origin of that is, like, up until that point, the biggest tournaments I had run were regionals, namely this regional series I started called Emerald City in Seattle. And that series was, like, really successful for a regional at the time. Like, each one usually pulled in about 300 to 400 people, which for Smash is great.
It's amazing. Yeah.
And I was doing that all when I was like 18 and 19. Like, that's when I
that's just that raw passion.
And I knew that like that region and like could fuel something like that.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, my next step is to run a major. But I didn't really, at the time when I was planning it, I was like, okay, let's try to run something that has like 600 to 800 people. That would be cool.
Yeah.
And I really underestimated the challenge and the staff that I would need to like properly run that. And it ended up coming together. I was like 19 with a team of my friends that were also in colleges like across the West Coast, namely in like Oregon and Washington. And everybody's like 19 or 18 years old. And 1,200 people have signed up, and most of it was like between a job that is like fit for probably a group of like 10 plus people was basically being done by like 5.
Classic esports.
Yeah.
So classic.
And it was on, looking back on it, like it was probably the most stressful period of my life. And like I've had like 2 like panic attacks ever, and one of them was like then. And it was just like a nightmare to pull off. But I think when it was finally over and everything came to fruition,
such a feeling.
It's definitely like my proudest project, because I looking back on it, like I didn't go about it the right way, and it somehow still came about in the way that it did. And I think, to my understanding, I'm the youngest person ever to run like a 4-digit attendance event, which I'm very proud of.
As you should be. That's amazing.
I was like, I tried to like look it up and like find and scroll through other events, but I was 19 when I ran that, and we had. I cannot find anybody younger than me who has run an event with like more than 1,000 people.
That's amazing.
So that's like the thing I'm most proud of for sure.
I would love to talk about your decision to then move away from TO and esports and move on from Summit into what you're doing now, which I know is like mobile and beyond and everything. I know in your Twitter logo you said that it was just like bringing you some unhappiness, you weren't feeling as passionate about it anymore, and you needed a break, which is something I really relate to. I would love if you could just kind of go into that decision and what kind of led you to be like, I need some time away. I need to work on myself for a bit.
It's funny because I think in part it's like a hard question to answer. I've been thinking about it more again lately. I feel like there was this weird, stressful period in my life around when I ran Don't Park on the Grass for the first time. And I was working at Smash GG for a while, where I really started to sort of like find success within the Smash community. And I was under maybe a lot of like self-imposed pressure, but a lot of literal messages, like by being this point of contact for like work, that kind of, I feel like kind of crippled my ability to communicate in a way with, and my drive to like create things in esports. Like I think there's some sort of thing that I still not have fully broken down that happened around that time period that never really left, because I cannot really remember the last time since the first dog park in the grass that I like really gave a shit about a project. Even though like a lot of things happened in the years after that, it feels like in a way a lot of it was kind of on fumes.
Yeah.
And
this is what I used to. This is what I usually do. So I should like keep doing it, even though the heart's not really.
Even though that the like fire that made me want to pursue it initially was like kind of like fizzling or gone in some cases. And that's the part that's harder to describe. But, like the concrete things were definitely. COVID gave me like a lot of time to think, as it gave a lot of people time to think. And I was working at Beyond the Summit, and I was sort of grappling with the fact that, wow, I have my dream job like a lot earlier than I thought I would. It's like on paper.
I do the same.
On paper, I feel like all of a sudden I have what I wanted, and I am not happy. And I started to think about like why that's the case, and like what parts of my life that I wanted to change and like kind of make better that I knew would like pull me in a better direction. And it made me think a lot about like quality of life stuff outside of work, because like all of my goals had been so about my career in academia for like so long that it was kind of hard to imagine like crafting goals around like my personal life. Which is kind of weird even now. Like I'm still working out shit related to this now.
It takes time, man, especially in your young 20s when you hit like a peak in your career early. I think you have a moment of just like, holy shit, I haven't actually spent time to like get to know myself. Become a full-fledged human being. I've just been about this.
Exactly, because everything is an effort of like chasing this dream that you had, or like this thing that you wanted.
And you don't want to let go. You're like, I got this so young. What am I going to do to just throw it away? But you get to a point where you're like, I kind of need to throw it away and sit the fuck down. And
it's like, oh, if this isn't everything to me, then I need to start thinking about other things in my life. And so there was kind of like a compounding list of things. I think I spent all of COVID, for a long time I had this goal of like leaving the US and to go live somewhere else. And I had asked people at Beyond the Summit if I could potentially move somewhere and keep my job. And not that it was off the table, but I wasn't getting any like promises about it or any commitment that it could be possible, which was a big thing. It was like, okay, well I definitely want that in my life, and I can't seem to get it out of this job. The other big thing is that they were planning on returning to the office, and I'm like, I worked from home before Summit, and I got to like do the office for like a year, maybe less than a year actually, 7 months, and I was like, I do not want to go back to the office. Like working at home and the flexibility it provided me, it's like I want that.
You like thrive off that, right? Like, when I'm like office 9 to 5, I don't know what it does to my brain, but my brain stops working, my creativity stops working. But if I have that like freedom, amazing.
It's that, and like commuting too, like consumes a lot of time, and there's so many things that are bad about it that I did not want to deal with anymore. And then the final big thing, because at the end of the day, like I love that job, I love the people I work with. Like there were a lot of people, especially like LD, Hotbid, Missing Data, Dan, like 3 people who gave me a huge opportunity and are great people, great mentors, like that I worked with while I was there. Like I really did love that job in a lot of ways, but the last bit was esports, and after talking to professionals in like other industries, I think this problem exists in like other areas. It's not an esports only problem, but I think something I really resent about esports is the way marketing dollars work and the way things are funded. Is somebody up in the chain of command that controls the money is this person who is
not esports.
For better or for worse, a normie who is often old, maybe not old, but is very disconnected from the thing that they are doing a marketing activation.
It's a hot new thing, and I should put my
Exactly, and they just don't really care.
Yes.
But at the same time, because they have to do their job on paper, they have to have restrictions and requirements about how the event is executed. So they don't. So they put all these like parameters around the event that make it worse, and they control the funding that you have to succumb to, so that you have to follow these rules, and you end up making a product that you would know is worse, that you know is bad, because it's the only way to make something happen at all. And that is so many projects in esports because of the way funding is like funneled through marketing dollars. And I think, so even for first-party companies that aren't at the mercy of marketing dollars, that maybe have a bit more leverage, they still make weird decisions about events because some guy who just doesn't really get it is ultimately making the call. And I saw this pattern occur over and over and over, and it's like, man, I don't want to deal with this anymore. I want to do, if I'm going to work on events at all ever again, I want to do it my way with the people that I know have earned their place, because we're gonna do it right. And I think like that was a really big philosophy of mine in making Smash tournaments. And I know like on the grand scheme of esports, like Smash tournaments aren't huge, right? But I think a big part of like why I think like when you look at the list of majors in Smash, I'm one of the only postdoc TOs to like have really made a career out of it. And I think it was because of that attitude that I had. It was this like, I know what would actually be good, and I'm going to do it my way. And I don't care. I don't care if the status quo is like this, because I think like this could be better. And then I just made those decisions. And it's not like I never made a mistake or something, but I think my willingness to make decisions and changes where people weren't willing to was a huge part of like what got me where I am. And like empowering a lot of people along the way who didn't have the like status within the community to like get respect from like community figures at the time, but who I knew their shit, and be like, come do this with me. And I feel like that's actually really reflected in the Smash community now, where a lot of the top players and like TO figureheads are people that I was working with or like paid flights to go to tournaments like 5-6 years ago, because I was like, that person gets it. And not to like fucking, you know, I'm like jerking myself off, but like, I really feel like, that gives me a lot of confidence that like, the people that I trusted like 5 and 6 years ago, that like, you're gonna be a great player because you're gonna stick with it, you're gonna be a great TO because you think about these things, and the fact that they are now, and that they're the community like figures now, gives me a lot of confidence in like my understanding and like read of just these situations in general. And that's the way that that's probably like the last totem pole of like why I wanted to quit. And then like the final piece that put it all together is Ludwig was looking for somebody to expand his merch side of his business. And Ludwig had talked to me about this merch idea that he had for years, like getting something on board to like to do and handle like merch for YouTube and Twitch creators in a way that he did for himself. And I always thought it was a really good idea. So it's like, you have this open opportunity, you trust me to do good work, and I have all these issues with esports. This lines up really well. And Ludwig promised, a big thing at the time was Ludwig promised that I could move. And I was like, that is perfect. So this fixes everything. Like all the quality of life needles that I wanted to like move, would move with this switching careers. And I would still, like even now, like Ludwig wants to do esports and events in general that I'm really, really happy about, and I'm glad I get to take over those things now.
I think that's one of my favorite things about seeing Ludwig grow bigger, is that like he loves esports and is someone who like, you know, has content creator friends and is esportsy. I always felt a bit of like you know, my content creator friends didn't understand why I cared about esports so much. So then when someone gets big and then uses their platform to boost esports, to me that is just like, thank you. Someone, thank you. We need people who are putting money into it, who understand and get the good people around and don't need it to be, you know, whatever, big old Joe with all the, you know, CEO, whoever, like, wants to be.
It's cool too because he's in a unique position as a creator where I think he gets a lot of flexibility and leeway with his money and what he wants to do in events in a way that a company cold calling would not.
Yes.
Because it's like he's Ludwig the YouTube guy who has a lot of like leverage or public image.
Yes.
So he gets to shape things in a way, or he gives us, like his employees, an opportunity to shape things in a way that you might not get at like a production company that is faceless. And I really, really like that about what we do.
Cliche question, but how did you meet and get to know and move in with the Yard Boys?
So I met all of them just generally through Smash. As far as like first time I met everybody, I was trying to think of like, I think the first time I met Anthony was at like Big House 7 maybe, and like the crowd. Big House 7 or maybe like Genesis, one of the Genesis in like 2017, something like, I think it was 2017-ish.
Yeah.
I remember the first actual conversation I had with Anthony Slime was in this bar.
Really?
We both separately went to BAM 9.
Yeah, like 3 years ago.
4 years ago? Whichever BAM was in 2018. So me and Slime both independently came to BAM. And he came because he was a good friend with Miles and he wanted to meet like a lot of the Australian guys. And I came because I just really like traveling to different parts of tournaments, like different parts of the world for tournaments. And I've been to Australia before, but I've been to Perth in 2016.
You went to Perth?
Yeah, that was my first Australian tournament. I went to DI another day too.
Oh, yes. Josh, you mentioned that.
Yeah, and that's when I met Josh and Miles for the first time in 2016, like 2 years before. So I was like, the Australian guys were pretty awesome. I want to go to MAM again. But it's just like funny because like we're here in this bar like 4 years later, and this is like where I basically like met Slime, so to speak. So I met Slime like a couple times in like those couple years, and then Ludwig was like who I met next. I want to say I met him at the Scar versus Fendi money match at Evo one year. I don't remember. I think that was Evo 2018, something like that. And I think it must have been that. He also hit me up, like he wanted to be hired for like commentary at Don't Park on the Grass in 2018, so we chatted some then. And that was just like my introduction to him. You know, not close friends by any means, like literally just like met for these, like, brief events and things like that. Fuck, I am starting to get drunk. I'm
Me too. We just had another shot before we filmed this, by the way. So
I'm like, this shot's hitting.
Yeah, Godspeed. We're like about halfway through, so good luck.
No,
we'll get there.
We're all right.
We'll be good. We'll be fine.
Just be real.
This puck.
Alright, do you want Pizza Hut?
What the fuck sort of question is that? And then Nick, who was who I met the last, I think. I think I like really met him. I knew who he was. Like I knew who all of them were. Because Slime was a big deal in Melee because of Slime on the Scene, that Melee. Like he was doing a lot of content within the space. And then Ludwig was sort of like finding these little like up and coming opportunities within the scene. I think like much like Air, like people were really tuned into the Melee scene. Ludwig's first breakout thing, I would say, was his commentary block at Runback, I want to say, which is this big tournament in Arizona. And him and our friend Mikey, aka The Cheat, did a commentary block for top 8 at that tournament. And they were ridiculously funny in that top 8. And it was a lot of people's first introduction to Ludwig and Mikey, and that didn't know them like at a personal level. and they were just like, not a lot of commentators are just like crazy funny.
Yeah,
like, they're
just like vibing, having a good time. Yeah.
Maybe mediocre commentary of the game,
Yeah.
whatever. But like a lot, I remember, especially for a tournament that was that small, a lot of people talked about it on Twitter, including people like Leffen. Like whoever these guys are, they are funny.
Leffen was like my introduction to Smash years ago. I loved just his like fuckwit attitude.
Yeah.
I just was like, I love someone who's a dickhead.
he's gonna be a fan of
I know. Cailan was telling me. Yeah.
So, that was how I got kind of introduced to leveling. Like, I knew these people within the scene.
Yeah.
And Nick, who was who I knew the least. I knew him by his tag Envy.
Yes.
And I knew who he was like loosely friends with because of like Twitter and like people would just pop up and things like that. And my friend and coworker Leah was friends with him, and she introduced me to. We almost played at like Genesis 6, I want to say.
Yeah.
Genesis 6. I ended up losing to a friend of mine from Oregon.
Yeah.
And if I had won, I would have played Nick.
Right. Okay.
But I didn't like meet him at that. We just happened to be in like the same bracket
Yeah,
pool.
distantly.
And then a year later at Genesis 7, which I want to say was was that 2018 or 2019? Fuck, man. No, Genesis
One of them.
5 might have been when I lost my friend from Oregon.
Yeah.
It all starts to blur together.
It really does. Every event is like.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
Nick was who I met the last, and I remember I met him at, I think it was Genesis 6. Like, Leah introduced me to him formally.
Yeah.
And he'll tell you, it's on like a Patreon Yard episode.
Yeah.
Apparently I left a bad impression, which is very funny. Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Because I asked him, like, aren't you the guy who made X? And Nick interprets that interaction as me trying to play it off that I don't actually know him when
like,
I do.
aren't you that guy? But like, I don't actually know who you are.
But we were talking about it today, and Nick realizes like years later, it's like, no, everything about I was actually being genuine. I was like, aren't you that guy?
Yeah.
Like, it's like, and that's because that's just how I am.
Yes,
and like
I'm similar.
And it's funny because he knows that like now.
Yeah.
And I think the next probably opportunity I had to like chat with him and get to know him a bit better was at Smash Summit 8.
Yeah.
Because he worked at Summit at the time, and I was working at Smash GG, and I was like the client, or sorry, I don't know what the fuck you call it, the account manager at Smash GG for Smash Summit. So I got to go to the event, and I hung out with Nick, and a bit, and like talked to him more. And how moving in with them worked is I ended up getting a job at Summit. So I was at Smash GG, and I was their account manager, and I was in a lot of meetings with these guys from Summit.
Yeah.
And I slowly built up this relationship over time, and eventually it worked out that they wanted to hire me, which is very cool, because that was like my dream job. Like Smash GG was cool because it was like in esports, but it was removed from it in the sense that it was more of a software company.
Yes, yeah.
And Summit was much more on the sides of events.
You're actually like in it.
Exactly, and that's what I actually wanted to work on.
Yes.
So I had to move down to LA, and I was trying to figure out who I could move in. And like a one bedroom in LA is so expensive. Like a studio or a one bedroom is just fucking insanely expensive in Los Angeles.
Yeah.
And I was like, I can't really afford this, so I started hitting up friends and people that I could move in with potentially in SoCal, primarily through the Smash community. Like hitting up people I knew who lived in SoCal, like, do you need a roommate? Do you want to move in with somebody? Stuff like that.
Let's figure it out. Yeah.
Yeah. And I remember I hit up Anthony, who I didn't know. Like, I didn't know any of these guys particularly well. I just knew Anthony Slime. I always call him Anthony, I'm sorry.
No, don't stress. Anthony Slime, we know who he is now.
And Nick and Ludwig lived together
already.
But I didn't really know them well. I just wanted a place to live, like genuinely. Yeah. With anybody I even had a loose connection with.
Yes,
and
I did the same.
I hit them up, and Anthony was like, hey, maybe. We're thinking about moving out of our month-to-month lease, and you're also welcome to stay with us however long you need.
Ooh, that's sweet.
Which was very kind.
Yes.
And I took that. It's like, oh, but this isn't a permanent solution. I'm gonna keep looking. So I ended up finding a listing on Facebook with like 3 random guys in North Hollywood, which is not close to the Summit office.
Yeah.
But they were about my age, and I didn't really mind living with people I didn't know. I'd found something, was happy with it. And I see that he sent me the lease. I'm like, okay, I'll go home, I'll sign this.
Yeah.
That day, Nick, who I've talked to the least out of these 3 people, sends me a message and like, hey, have you figured out your living situation yet?
Oh, okay.
And I was like, well, kind of. I'm about to sign a lease with this place I don't know. He's like, hey, don't do that. We're moving out. We're going to find a new place.
Yeah.
Move in with us.
Yeah.
And it's so funny looking back on it now because I think Nick was the most tentative about me moving in with them.
Okay.
And he was the person who reached out. And I moved into their old house that the 3 of them were in, and I slept in their kitchen for a month.
Yeah.
And I just commuted
That's so
with them to work.
smash, so esports just sleeping in some random fucking room. Yeah.
On an air mattress in the kitchen for a month, and then we found a new place, and we all moved into it together. And then another friend of ours, Neeper, also ended up moving into the house with us. It was the 5 of us in that house. And that was back when the 3 of us, and then a couple months later, coincidentally, Neeper also had a job at Summit. So it was 4 of us working at Summit, living together, and then Ludwig doing the stream thing.
Yeah.
So that's how it all came together. Like it was just this like weird circumstance of like, I know these guys through Smash.
I need a house, you need a house.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They're going to be my coworkers.
Yeah.
Maybe they'd be down to let me move in, and they were.
Do you have any out-of-pocket stories from living with that group? Don't fucking laugh. Get lost again.
So I think like I don't know if anybody like, you know, it's hard to say.
Yeah.
People watching this might know Ludwig, might listen to the yard. There's a lot of like chaotic moments in the home, I think.
That's how it is.
Like this week, I think it was like the day before we came here. Me, Nick Ingling, and Nick were in our room, or in our room, in the living.
You guys are like sharing a double bed, just the 3 of you.
We're just all bumped up.
Yeah, as you should be.
We were in the living room, and I thought it would be funny if I just peed on the floor in front of them.
I thought that was a joke.
No, I actually did do that.
I thought the cat peed, and then the joke was that you pretended to pee. You actually just peed on the floor?
Yeah. I thought it would be really funny if I peed on the floor.
And was it?
Yeah.
Well, there you go. You got what you wanted.
Yeah, it killed, so it paid off, I would say. Me and Anthony talked about this a while ago. The original version of this bit was, would it be funny if one day one of us just shit on the floor in front of the others? And I wasn't willing to go that far.
That's like a lot.
But I did think peeing on the floor would be
funny.
It's
a bit easier. Yeah.
It was easier for me to clean up after, for sure.
Yeah, it's just like a little wipey, spray wipey.
I did do that.
Wow.
In front of 2 very close friends. Would not do this in a professional environment in front of anybody who I do not have the utmost confidence.
You can still hire me.
Asterisk. Would never do this in front of people I don't know, or at work, or anything like that.
In public, where you could get arrested.
I was with 2 of my best friends.
And I whipped my dick out.
Yeah, this is clearly. I even did it ass facing away,
That's
so
what
like
you
they
want.
didn't see anything.
So they get like the good view.
I'm fully clothed. They just see a stream.
Wow.
Anyway, that's not even the one I wanted to tell.
Yeah, well, good.
There's this old one I think of all the time, which is like when Neeper was still living with us in the old house.
Yeah.
I don't know, I touched on it. When
Don't
Neeper
stress.
was still living with us in the old house. Neeper, okay, so the way our old house worked is you walked into like the foyer. I guess that was what you would call it.
Foyer.
I don't know. Yeah. And
The foyer.
the rooms, all the bedrooms are on the 2nd floor, but you can see them. There's like a balcony almost.
Oh, that's so like American House, right? Where you have like a loft
extremely
situation thing. Yeah.
Yeah, and Neeper comes out of his room, and we're all standing on the ground looking up at Neeper. And there's like a little like guardrail along this, right? And we have like a couple boxes stacked against it.
Yeah.
Nick and Slime are to my left, in like more the middle of the room, and I'm to the right. And Neeper gets down like a gorilla and looks at us. He's like, and Slime looks at him. He's like, no, don't do it. don't do it. And Neeper starts miming like he's gonna take down his pants. And then Neeper drops, goes full frontal, and like just like flashes Nick in slime.
Mm-hmm.
But from my perspective, there's this box leaning against the thing that perfectly censors out his dick. So I can only see Neeper's legs and chest. And I can't see. It's like that scene in the Simpsons movie where it's just like Homer's dick is like perfectly
Bart's
censored.
dick, I think, covered. Yeah.
Yeah. And I remember that very clearly. There's also this picture I have on my phone where like Anthony finally decided that his hair was thinning enough that he was just gonna lean into it and go bald.
Get rid of it.
And I have
Carbon
this picture. I have this picture of Anthony sitting on the ground on the patio out back in his underwear, like on the ground like this, and Neeper is shaving his head with the buzzer shirtless, and I just like, I'm taking it from like 20 feet away, and it's like two naked men, like one shaving the head of the other, and there's like...
Questionable.
Yeah, there's a lot of weird photos and like things like that, and it's like they still happen. It's because I feel like your question is kind of like, well, what happened back then? And it's like, no, all that shit still happens now.
We're a bunch of men living in a house together who get up to shit every day.
Yeah,
it'd be happening.
Yeah, so it's still happening.
Yeah.
With a very clear understanding of how these things are acceptable between us. I want to make that clear. No one is uncomfortably witnessing any of these activities.
You get those group of friends where you just, it's like kind of anything's game.
Yeah, anything goes, including pissing on the floor in front of your friends.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
Oh my God. What is your favorite? Stop laughing every time I ask a question.
What's your favorite?
Like I have so many favorites.
Yeah, so many favorites.
Like this and that and this other thing. No, what's your personal favorite episode of The Yard, and also perhaps your least favorite? Mix that in there.
Favorite episode. Favorite's a little hard because I feel like I haven't updated this in my mind, because I actually feel like our like last like 10, 15 of them have been like really good overall.
Yeah?
But
that's a good feeling.
There's this episode, it's like one of our least viewed ones. And I think it's like episode 6, I want to say, episode 6 or 7. And that episode was always one of my favorites. And I always thought it was funny because it has so few views.
Yeah, that's how it always is.
Yeah, but I really liked that one because it was kind of like one of the episodes where I felt like I stepped up in terms of what I brought to the table.
Okay.
And then also like the general like flow of the episode is just a lot of fun. And then also I think one of my other favorites is the one we did with Miles, Don B.
Yeah, I like that episode.
Yeah, it's just a great episode where we have this like really fun story to recount with our friend who like Miles like molds into the podcast really naturally and well in a way that all the other guests don't, because we just know him so well.
Yeah, when it's one of your friends, they just kind of like join in the conversation naturally. It's not like they're the guest.
And that shows, because I think like a lot of the deep cut fans say that that is their favorite episode.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
Least favorite. Least favorite has to be one of the more, so ironically, because I just said that like the past like 10 to 15 are like some of our best, there's an episode like that's like somewhat recently that's like vaguely referred to as like the slime horny episode, where he just like makes a lot of like weird sexual jokes. Like not, I feel like the way I'm describing that makes it sound like, oh, this could be toxic and could be like about like misogynistic or something.
No,
it
didn't come across that way.
It's very like neutrally sexual. Yeah. And he just turns every situation into a weirdly like sexual comment. And that might be my least favorite episode.
Why? Why? Did it make you uncomfortable?
The reason it was like that, no, it's because it's like just not. It's probably one of the first episodes where we really talk about fucking nothing the entire time.
Yeah, okay.
And we talked about like one day we're gonna have like our stinker episode, and I think it might be that one.
Yeah.
it's like fine, but I think
It happens.
we prepare for episodes a little bit. We come into every week with like a list of topics that we can approach to like kind of move the show along.
Yeah.
And that was a week where we had
Nothing.
nothing.
Yeah.
So we came into the episode with nothing. We hadn't seen each other all week. We had
That's a big
nothing to
thing.
fucking talk about.
Yeah.
And it really was just bullshit for an hour and a half with Anthony like, oh yeah, you want to make me fucking hot, and like it's like just like talking about weird shit. And we were just like, son, why are you being so horny? But he was just trying to carry the episode in
just
some
trying
direction.
to input something.
I think that's my least favorite episode. Yeah, because it's just a lot of nothing.
I have 2 questions to some of the Aussie boys. I think it's from Cailan.
Yeah.
So you're like a really nice guy. You're like very kind, but I've heard that you're like really prone to like gamer rage.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Definitely.
What's that about?
I think I'm just like ridiculously competitive. Like I've been
Are you,
reflecting on this a lot.
Are you like a
recently.
spiker? Like if you have a
No.
No? Okay.
No.
I respect that. I don't like
I
yeah.
haven't spiked. I don't think
In a while?
It's been a few years.
Okay, that's pretty good.
Yeah.
Cailan off
When did you
screen.
spike?
Chapos beat you at Bear, like the last Bear drop. Chapos beat you and you spiked.
Oh, I
Chapos
played-
beat
I
him
played
and he
so
spiked.
bad.
Yeah.
So
So like
remember
at BAM in front of people
Yeah.
you spiked.
But I don't think I
Yeah, maybe.
spiked. I don't think I've spiked since 2018.
That's not bad.
Yeah.
That's pretty good. What is it do you think that makes you like that come out in you when you're gaming?
I think it's not about the other person or anything. I just like really hate losing.
Okay, yeah.
I'm like very, very competitive. I think like all of my like most toxic traits like foster themselves like most clearly through Melee.
Yeah,
or, like,
that's fair.
competitive games in general, but like Melee specifically because it's the game I care the most about.
Yeah, it's
if
kind of
I-
like your life, right?
Yeah, if I think
Yeah.
about all my like weakest and like most depraved gamer moments, they're definitely either attached to Melee or Mario Kart. So, it's not that it's like fucking like I'm not like proud of it or something.
No,
you
no,
know,
no.
I think I just like can't help but feel like so much of like my personal self-worth was like attached to Melee for so
Yeah,
long.
that's fair.
So like performing poorly like really like made me sad. I think like I've done like a few like fucking like smashes into the table.
I've
holding
done
front-
that too. I've
Yeah, but I haven't.
keyboard smashed.
I haven't spiked in like a few years. I've
Okay.
like recounted this before in like other settings, but I had
Yeah.
a recent thing where like I insulted a player
Oh yeah.
like verbally like while I was playing him because I do that like when I'm alone in my room playing netplay.
Yeah. Okay.
And I listen to music when I'm playing netplay, and I'm just looking at
You're not even
gameplay.
like in it. You just kind of say.
And when
yeah.
I play tournament, I put my AirPods in.
Okay,
and,
so
like,
you're an
fucking just
AirPod
listen
up
to
while you're
music.
playing. Yeah,
Yeah, and I
okay.
just look at the screen. Like it's not about the other person, but I recently had an incident that like for the first time ever, like I verbally insulted my opponent like that's sitting next to me, and I
Yeah.
felt really bad because
Yeah.
like in all like aspects of my life, I think I'm pretty like gracious.
Yeah.
But all of a sudden on the setup, it's
just
like
came
becomes a bit of
out.
a demon, and I think I've been reflecting on that a lot in the past year. It's like I don't really like that quality about
Yeah.
myself. Like it's just something about how bad I want to win so bad. Like I think even when I sit down to play now, it's like if somebody's beating me, I want to play until I fucking figure it
Yeah,
out.
and
like,
beat them.
yeah,
Yeah.
And it's eased up a bit because I think I care a little less than I used to. Because I think I've finally reached a point in the game where I recognize where like I've gotten good enough where like to get better requires like an incredible amount of work.
Yes,
And
absolutely.
I don't know if I'm dedicated enough to do that.
Yeah.
So
Sometimes it is that kind of frustration of like, I know I could be better if I had the time and the energy and the willingness to put
yeah,
put
but,
my time to
but
this.
what's it worth at that point?
Yeah, especially when you're living like a life with a job and trying to,
Yeah.
you know, do all these other things.
Yeah. So I definitely have gamer rage though.
Yeah,
Like it
that's
comes
fair.
out
I
when I
think a lot
play
of
like
people do.
Valorant and shit.
Yeah.
I'm pretty good about like not flaming my teammates.
Yeah, okay.
Like I think I flame my teammates like privately. Like,
Yeah, it's like internal rage.
It's like
Yeah.
I don't hold like the push to talk key. I just say it.
Yeah.
And then I get back into the game.
Yes,
It's
yes.
like an outlet, you know?
Yeah,
But
to yourself.
if somebody's being like rude to me, I'm very like, if somebody starts it with me, then I'll get into it.
I'm a bit
And
like
it's
that too.
And I'd rather like respond and like get my piece in than win the game in a way.
Yeah.
So,
I think
yeah.
that's fair, just kind of like standing up for yourself.
Yeah.
The other question is, Zai wanted me to ask you about how you got the nickname Daddy's Little Gamer. He said that you would react this way. What's that story?
Oh, okay. So this is at Phantom, the first one 3 years ago, and I money matched Cailan, and
Cailan,
I
right there.
lost, and
Right.
and then what ended up happening, I was like, let's rematch,
Okay.
and we'll play for $100 on Sunday. It's so funny because we said $100. We didn't even agree what currency it was.
Right, you just took $100. Fuck it.
$100, yeah. And we ended up playing and on the Sunday, and Cailan beats me in the $100 money match, like pretty cleanly, if I remember correctly. And I'm drunk, and I say, again, let's play again.
Okay, yeah.
And
More.
let's
go.
I lose again. And I'm like, again, double or nothing.
Yeah.
Again.
Yeah.
And I keep going. And I lose like maybe 5 times. Like I lose a lot.
Yeah.
And I'm getting progressively more drunk and I continue to lose. And eventually Kaylin's like, I'm not letting you play again. Like, and I'm mad, but part of the deal in the $100, like in one of the last money matches we play, I think, is that not only do I lose money, but I have to change my tag on Smash GG to Daddy's Little Gamer.
Right, so that was like one of the bets rather than
Yeah.
$100.
For
Yeah.
an undefined amount of time. And I did do that. I was Daddy's Little Gamer for like, I want to say like 3-4 months.
Ooh.
Yeah,
Very nice.
and which was very funny because like Dom and Cailan and Zai and like a bunch of the boys would like call me Daddy's Little Gamer for a while,
Yes.
which was I thought it was hilarious. I didn't
Yeah.
like really mind, but that was the context. It's like I was just like so prideful. It was like I could definitely beat Cailan, which is funny because all this is happening in 2019. And me and Cailan recently had the opportunity to rematch at
Yes.
Smash Summit when he visited the U.S.
Yes.
I watched it.
Oh, good shit.
Got my $100 back. He hasn't paid me, by the way. And
We'll make him
so-
pay at the end of this.
so the tables have turned.
Do you think that your social media growth has changed you in any way as a person?
No,
No?
I don't think so.
Mm.
Maybe. I mean, not as a person.
Yeah, not you.
It changes like what I tweet, maybe.
Yeah,
Because
okay.
I finally have reached a point where my following majority is like from the yard
Yeah, okay.
and Ludwig stuff.
Yeah,
so
people
I've
who-
noticed that like when I tweet about esports or like Melee specifically, I don't get as many
Yeah.
like interactions with the post as I would with like a regular tweet,
Yes.
which is weird because it used to be the other way around,
Yeah.
where everything used to have to be able to like attach to Smash for traction.
Because that's like why they're following
yeah,
you, right?
yeah, and that's what's changed like as far as like a Twitter output goes.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think I've changed as a person at all. Like,
Yeah.
I think like I've pretty much been the same way. Like I've like changed as a person like over the years,
Yeah, of
for sure,
course.
but like not because of the followers and
Yeah.
stuff. Like I think it's pretty easy for things to be that way too when my career isn't like very tied to like a YouTube video or
Mm-hmm.
streaming. Because at the end of the day, like my like actual day job is like still working for Ludwig.
Yeah,
Like you know,
you have
like
things to
from
do.
like a business standpoint.
Yes.
And that's my day job. Like that's actually I have a salary that I get
Yes.
paid to do stuff for Ludwig that is totally separate from the yard.
Mm-hmm.
And that's like what I focus on. And then the yard, not that I don't pay attention to it or something, but the yard
Yeah.
is like a separate thing that just happens to be very successful. Like for various reasons. Like for not for you know, no effort being applied.
No, yeah,
But
it's successful for a reason.
Yeah, but I think it's like, I don't think of myself as like a creator or an influencer. Like,
Okay.
I'm a guy who does like business stuff for my
Yeah.
friend and in esports, and I also happen to be on a podcast, and that's fun. But it's like, I'm not a creator first, you know? I don't have to think about who I am as like an influencer, which helps, because like my follower, the only thing I ever check relative to my follower count is, so naturally Ludwig is the most followed out of us.
Yeah.
And Anthony was famous before Ludwig.
Yeah,
famous.
yeah.
So he had a lot of followers at the game.
Yeah.
But for me and Nick, we've always kind of been neck and neck.
Right, okay.
And I check that. I don't check.
Okay, you
I don't
check if you and
I don't
Nick-
check my followers. I don't check my followers. I check the differential between me
you and Nick.
Because we had this race when I moved in. We had the race to 10K.
Okay.
And
that's
he
kinda
beat me,
lingered.
And Nick has been, no matter where we're at, Nick has been perpetually 2,000 followers ahead of me. So I always
Okay.
check to see what the differential
Yeah.
is. Yeah, and that's
That's
so
fair.
that's the only thing that I care about, like in social media. It's like, I think it's funny to keep up with like the difference between me and
Yeah,
Nick.
you and the friend who kind of like are on the same level, same trajectory.
Yeah, we
like,
kinda
how's
came
that
up-
going?
Came up into shit in like this, in a similar way.
Yeah.
So like, just looking at that, but I don't think I haven't had to change very little about my life.
that's
and
sweet.
it's definitely a product of it being a podcast versus like it being plain YouTube or
Yes.
streaming,
Or
especially
Twitch,
where I
yeah.
think you have to put a lot more effort into your active individual brand.
Yes, I agree.
I get to escape a lot of like the issues of being that type of creator by the fact that I really am just like on screen for 2.5 hours every week.
And then
that's
fuck
it.
off.
Yeah.
To finish this up, I would love to ask just kind of like, I don't want to say what's next, but like, where do you want to head next in your personal life, in your career, with esports, with content, with whatever? Like, what would make you happy to like move into and pursue?
It's hard.
Yeah, that's why I ended it with the hard question.
talking about this with Don B
Yeah.
and Slime yesterday.
Yes.
Actually, while we were walking around Brunswick.
Mm-hmm.
It's really, really hard to say because I think similar to the reasons why I took the job with Ludwig in the first place, I think I've been trying to let go of goals rather than make them.
Yeah. I think that's a sweet way of looking at it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the yard is like one of the first things that I've done that I get to work on, and it's fun, and it's pretty stress-free, and I get to be like, I get to reflect on it, and I get to try to be better at it, but at the same time I get to sit down every week with like my friends and do something that's like relatively
Talk shit, have fun.
stress-free
Yeah.
and fun and interesting, and I like it a lot. And I like it a lot more than I think I ever thought I would like something like this.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm trying to really focus, like, not only work-wise, but in like my personal relationships on like, okay, let's enjoy what this is like now.
Yeah.
Instead of trying to like worry about it turning into some cumulative goal.
Yes.
Because that's what my whole life was like up until this time period.
Yeah.
Is like constantly worrying about this like final achievement that
What's
I think
next? Yeah.
I kind of arrived at, and I was like, fuck, this didn't actually solve anything. Which was a weird feeling. And I do feel a little lost when I think about like what's next or what's down the line. I think my core goal of like, I would still like to move somewhere else and like try something else is like good. I want to do that. Like I want to go live like just not in the States.
Yeah, just somewhere else.
Yeah, and I've thought a lot about like personal relationships and like family and kids and like where that lines up into stuff and like buying a house.
Yeah.
But like when I think about like content or like career, I don't have a lot of like concrete thoughts at the moment. The only thing I can kind of think of is like if I found myself in the position or found myself with the opportunity to like really craft and make like an influential league, like shortly before working for Ludwig, I was trying to go work at Riot to go work at Valorant,
Yeah,
work
okay.
on Valorant, which is a game I
Cool.
really like. I've been playing
Yeah.
a lot of Valorant for like a couple years now, and it's a game I care about a lot in a way, not in the same way, but in a similar way that I cared about Melee. Probably the first
Okay.
game in a long time that I actually care about like playing and getting better at.
That's awesome.
And if there was like a unique opportunity to sort of like influence the global like structure and league of Valorant,
Yeah.
I think that would be really cool because I think like that is the type of thing or like the frontier of esports that I think I would give a shit about. But for the moment, there's this unique opportunity in like creating things with my friends, either for Ludwig and for Mogul Moves or for the Yard, that I'm just trying to like enjoy while it lasts.
Yeah.
Because it's like it's hard to say what this will be like in 5 to 10 years.
Yeah.
I think that 5 to 10 year question has like never been, the answer that I've had has never even been close to correct. And
Yeah, me
the
too.
amount of things that have changed in that amount
Yeah.
of time is like fucking ridiculous.
Everything. Yeah.
So I'm not too worried about it. I'm like very much in this point in my life where I'm like trying to let go of things rather than trying to like worry about and plan things, which is hard for me. And-
Yeah, like let go of the reins.
yeah, and I don't think I'm naturally attached to that like ability to do so.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's what I'm trying to do at the moment. Is like let's like see this thing out that is like with my friends, that is really fun,
Yeah.
that is like unique, and experience this part of my life, and then maybe let's worry about the rest later.
Later.
Yeah.
Yeah, why not?
And I think a nice thing too is I think I recently started like dating somebody, like my girlfriend, and
Yeah.
I feel like her mentality towards like career and life is like very free of like planning and anxiety, and I really admire that. And not that it was like I wasn't thinking, it's not like I wasn't thinking about these things or aiming to let go of these things before meeting her, but she's sort of this like shining example of like what I could be like in a way that I'm sort of like chasing, is like
Yeah, I feel
that level
similar.
of like freedom and feeling over like my life, because I'm very lucky. I'm in a unique situation where I currently do not really have to worry that much about the future.
Yeah.
So let's fucking make the most of this time and like not really
Yeah.
worry about like what it has to turn into or
Yeah.
what sort of like content empire I might have to make.
That's
It's like let's
awesome.
just fucking deal with like, let's just enjoy hanging out with my friends now.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's so sweet. Thank you so much. We're at the end now, so I'm gonna quickly go to the fucking main camera. Thank you so much for making it to the end. I think this was episode 6 of Griefed. I really appreciate you watching it through. Aiden, thank you so much for being on. You have been such a fun guest to talk to. I really, everything you've spoken about esports, I resonated with deeply. Every time we've had a break in this, I've been like, that was the best. This was the best answer. I relate so much. It's so good. Thank you so much for watching. We filmed this at GGEZ Bar in Melbourne on Queen Street. If you want to come down and like watch some esports, this is the best place you can do it. I'm stumbling because we are quite drunk.
Yeah,
the owner literally got us this fucking grief sign back here just because, you know. Amazing. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you.
And I'll see you on the next one.
Peace.
Farewell. Oh, fuck yeah. Thank you so much. Oh, that was awesome. You really killed that.
Thank you for having me.
What do you feel like eating, by the way?
I don't know. What do you feel like?
Are you my gay brother who's in on the joke?
I'm literally getting married to a woman.
Well,